What's up, everyone? Welcome here to the first episode of our MCU recap here. I am your host, Mark Turcotte, and that's right, you're tuning into a special episode here of Rivals Assembled. Like I said, it's our first MCU recap, and this week, in this episode, we are talking about Captain America: Brave New World, and boy, we have lots to talk about. So hey, if you've not seen the movie yet, be aware, there's definitely going to be some spoilers in this episode. So to break it all down with me here for this episode, first up, Neil, what's up, man?
Welcome, all dirtbag caps. Today's your episode. It's special. We're excited to break this one down for sure.
Yes. And also joining us, Ken's, what's up, man?
What's going on? Yeah, excited to give everybody a little taste of what some bonus content could be. So love the MCU, ready to get into the newest iteration of that.
Yes, and we're going to be definitely doing many more episodes MCU related here in the future. And Matt, what's up, man?
Yo, happy to be here and to talk about all things Marvel movies. I love these films. This was not the MCU specifically, but comic book movies were how I got into the medium. So stoked to talk about it with you guys.
Yeah. Well, like we said, this is the first MCU recap episode here, and we are putting this in just the regular feed, so if you're tuning into this, chances are you're probably listening to it through the regular Rivals Assemble feed, and this is but a taste of some of the content you're going to get here with our Patreon, which is going to be launching here very, very soon, or could already be out by the time you're listening to this. Who knows? So, guys, let's jump in here with the latest MCU movie, and that is Captain America: Brave New World. Launched February 14th, so on Valentine's Day, 2025. And we all went and saw it pretty much, within days of the movie releasing.
Yeah.
And just before we actually jump into the specifics of it all, I just want to kind of get brief thoughts overall. So no ratings right now. We're going to get to that towards the end of the episode. But just
PG-13.
Oh, okay, PG-13, yeah. But what were your thoughts? Kind of go to Matt.
The rating.
We'll throw it to you. What did you think of the film?
I was so stoked to see this. Captain America, one of my favorite Marvel characters and MCU characters. I love the direction they've been taking with Sam Wilson. I loved it. A great movie to be seen in theaters like it should be.
Yeah. What did you think, Neil?
I also enjoyed it. February 14th, I somehow was able to make this my date night with my wife.
Yes.
One, because I said we were going to do a special episode about it, so I had to go see it.
For science,
and
of course.
Two, it was the only thing playing except for Paddington Bear at the movie theater. So it was an easy win for me, and I'll definitely take it. And I'm excited for the next one if I can
Have
ever
you seen
pull that off
Paddington
again.
though?
No, so
Paddington they're actually
great.
fantastic.
I saw the first one.
There's a new one.
That was the only one I saw.
went to Europe or something. Maybe next recap episode will be on Paddington.
Isn't Paddington like a European bear anyways? Like the books? Or no,
Yeah.
am I just...
Yeah.
Yeah,
So he
he's
goes to
from-
Europe, but he's like from Europe?
Marmalade?
That's strange.
Yeah, Paddington
Or
loves
no, he
marmalade.
might go to Brazil. I don't know. There was a
That's
preview for it.
difference.
There's a
A
preview.
lot. That's a huge distance disparity, Neil.
It's a brave new world that Paddington bear is going to.
He might have been in this movie. I'm
Anyway.
not sure.
That's right. Ken's, what did you think of the movie, man?
I liked it for the most part. I saw it in IMAX, so I think that definitely helped because, man, some of the action scenes were incredible. But there's also a lot I didn't like about it. I think overall that it was fine, and I'm glad I went and saw it.
Yeah. I was kind of the same way. Like, I don't know what it was in my head. Like, I think I expected more. And I don't want to say I walked out disappointed because I definitely enjoyed it. Glad I saw it on the big screen. I don't know I don't think we've really talked about it on Rivals Assemble, but like over the last year and a half, 2 years, I've become like a really big Hulk fan. Like throughout my life, I never really liked the Hulk. I was just kind of like, oh, he's just that kind of dumb, big brutish character. But having read Immortal Hulk, which I highly recommend people read, and now continuing through with like all the Hulk series coming out since, like they've just made Hulk a monster. So the end of this movie, when you see the Red Hulk basically Hulk out, like just give me more scenes of the Hulk just being like an unstoppable monster. Yeah. And so seeing that on the big screen did not disappoint at all. So being able to see that, I think, was awesome. So I'm glad I saw it in the theaters. I don't know. I think I went in thinking of a Cap movie, like hoping for Winter Soldier level. And I don't know, I just didn't get that. And it was fine. For what it was, it pushed the story forward for everything that we want to see. And there were definitely some awesome moments. And there's definitely some seeds, I think, placed within the movie that is going to kind of send us to where the direction of the MCU could be going. And so overall, definitely enjoyed it. But it's not one of the best, I think I would say.
Kenz, you said you saw it in IMAX. I also saw it in IMAX, and I don't know if it's just me or what, but I found it a bit too loud. And like in my theater, the chairs in IMAX suck compared to the regular ones. They're not like the big comfy.
Yeah,
Nothing of
don't wanna
which
shove
has anything to
lots of
do with
people in
the
there.
movie.
Yeah,
So, but my
Damn
hack
you,
for
Kevin
that
Feige, with your chairs.
my hack for that is that there's a in our IMAX theater, the chairs don't recline, but there's the seats on the
Third world
floor,
country.
and then there's seats that go up the stairs.
right.
On the very front row of those seats that go up the stairs is a rail, and so I always sit on the very front of that where the stairs go up, so I can put my feet on the rail. So it's kind of like I'm like reclining back. But
there's a hot tip there for you.
But no, I didn't think it was too loud. I've never walked out of a theater and thought, man, that was too loud.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way,
I'm
man.
of the camp of like crank it up. Like let's.
I've walked out of theaters saying like it's not loud enough. Like we go, there's one kind of like a cheaper theater we go to sometimes, and like it's just so quiet. And I'm like, man, can we just go ask them to turn it up? Like it just annoys me, especially when you can hear like the rumble from the theater next door. Like, do you ever have that where you can hear, like, there's something on the other side of the wall, and it's like, oh, and I'm sure
That's probably this film.
Yeah, I was gonna say this movie. I'm sure.
So there's like IMAX, and then in my theater, there's the smaller theaters that do have the nice seats, but they have like the Dolby Atmos sound.
Ooh, nice.
So it's like the sound is more intense than even in the IMAX, and that's what I prefer, like over anything.
Have you guys ever seen a 40X movie?
No, I haven't, but I'd love to.
Is that where they like spray water at you and
Yes.
stuff?
I
I saw Rise of Skywalker, and when they're fighting on like the water planet, I just was getting soaked. My daughter and I were like, just getting soaked. Like it was just
really
ridiculous.
distracting.
Wind blowing. Yeah, I mean, you literally walk out like you were on a roller coaster for 2 hours. Like it was insane.
And because your chairs move too, right?
Yes, and there's like two. You're like her and I were in one unit, and that whole thing was moving. Strobe lights every time lightsabers were hitting. It was like, and I think this movie was in 40X. I think at our theater you could go. I mean, it's usually like $25-$30 to go, but I would recommend, like when we went and saw that movie, we had already seen it once, and that was our second time seeing it. It's like a see the movie the second time experience. Like I don't think you'd want to see a movie.
That sounds awful the first time.
You literally have to put a seatbelt on, like when you go to the movie.
I saw Rise of Skywalker. I saw Black Widow, and whenever a gun was fired, you'd feel the gunshots in your back through the seat, kind of like on that Bug's Life ride.
The Bug's Life.
I have like trauma from that thing as like an 8-year-old.
And then the last thing I saw was Avatar 2, A Way of Water, and that was crazy.
They just submerge you in water.
Yeah. And the most recent one that I missed was the Attack on Titan last 2 episodes. They showed it in 40X. Imagine those last 2 episodes in 40X. God. Like,
wow.
I don't know that I want to. I'd be scared.
Yeah.
Crazy. Wow. Well, guys, let's get back here to Captain America: Brave New World. I have pulled up right now a wiki page over on the Marvel Cinematic Universe fandom page. So I don't want to read the whole synopsis here, but I kind of want to just briefly go through it here. And if you guys want to stop me at any point, just to talk about, I guess, what we got going on there, or just kind of let me go through it. But long story short, in this film, Thaddeus Ross, of course, Thunderbolt Ross is back. Harrison Ford taking on that role, which was, what do you guys, actually, let's just stop there. What do you guys think of Harrison Ford stepping into that role and being Thunderbolt Ross?
Fantastic.
Yeah, I thought he did
Fantastic
good.
job.
Yeah.
He did a really good job. I was a bit, not worried, but apprehensive about it. I'm like, is he really gonna come in here and like be a good part of the MCU? But I watched the movie and I think he did, a great job. By the end, I was like, all right, let's get more of that.
I thought he was incredible as Thunderbolt Ross. I wanted more of him. I thought his plot line as Thunderbolt Ross was not great, but him like as an actor in that role, loved. I thought he did an incredible job.
Well, what do
It
you
was
mean his
perfect.
plot? Like the fact that he was taking the pills and was like,
Well, so honestly, I think the biggest issue with this movie is that we all knew that he was Red Hulk from the very
I know,
beginning.
right, man?
Like,
Ah,
just
Yeah.
imagine if you could wipe your brain, and if as soon as you walked into the theater, you didn't see, the giant Harrison Ford faced Red Hulk in a poster,
yeah.
and you did not know that he was Red Hulk, like seeing those threads being pulled together, like, oh, is that what they're gonna do? And then at the end, you get the big thing.
Or dude, watching like Dateline on a Friday night and there's like a Tide commercial and it's like people standing at a bus stop with the Red Hulk smashing by them. They're like, oh, I got to go wash my clothes with some Tide. It's like, why? Why are you
Yeah.
doing this?
Well, I
Like,
mean,
what in the
obviously,
world?
they had to do it because no one would have gone to see it. Like, this was like the big like, okay, like Red Hulk is in the movie, like Captain America's fighting Red Hulk,
Yeah.
Harrison Ford is Red Hulk. Like, those are all the big selling points of this movie. But for his plot line, I think my biggest issue with it is I love the show Shrinking, which is Harrison Ford and is a therapist. And he essentially has the same plot in that show as what's in this movie, is where he has an estranged relationship with his daughter.
Oh, really?
And he's just kind of an old, angry guy. And he's just
Wants to be
like,
president.
yeah, but he's great in that. And so I was kind of like seeing those. I'm like, man, are we just doing that again in this movie?
But
And all, yeah.
well, I was going to say what I think that was what surprised me the most is how, like, yes, this is, I don't want to say it's if anything the sequel to Falcon and the Winter Soldier, right? But it's also the sequel to The Incredible Hulk, which I don't think I really expected that at all. Like, to have Betty come back, to have Liv Tyler actually literally show up in the film, and then to have, of course, Samuel Stearns, the leader, who we saw him in the previous movie. There he is, like, he's here on the screen, and so it's like, I heard people saying, like, you should watch that movie before you go see this, but I didn't think it would be as ingrained into it. But it really was. Like, this was basically like the sequel to Falcon and the Winter Soldier and The Incredible Hulk combined into one. This was that movie. And I didn't really put that together until I'm literally watching it. I was like, wow, like, this really is them, like, pulling that movie into, I don't want to say the long forgotten MCU movie, but, everybody just thinks we went from Iron Man to Captain America. Everybody forgets about that movie, about the Incredible Hulk, kind of shoved in there. And it's like, no, that movie is part of all this. Even though, yes, it's a different Bruce Banner with the recast and all that, that all is part of the MCU. And this really pulled all that in. And that was, if anything, I think one of the best things this movie did was to really pull all those characters in. And who knows where it's going to go from here, because now we still have Thunderbolt Ross still sitting on the raft. You have, the leader still out there, right? We don't know what his role is going to be. I mean, we can get to it a little bit later, talk about it now, but like the post-credit scene, that to me, I was a little bit confused on, because I wasn't sure, like, when he says, like, how are you going to handle threats coming from beyond? And it's like, we just had 20 movies of Thanos. Like, is it what are you talking about?
Thanos coming back?
But it's like
multiverse,
but it's got to be, of course, the multiverse. Yeah. I don't know. What do you guys think, Matt? What do you think of, like, the Incredible Hulk kind of infusion into this?
The route that they should have taken was leaning into this being a sequel to Incredible Hulk, touting the leader as the villain, because you have that great moment where he kills D-Man, who is actually a superhero in the comics.
Yep.
Who wears kind of like an outfit amalgamated between, like, old school Wolverine and old school Daredevil. And he goes like stone cold. So tout the leader as your villain, tout that this is a sequel, to that movie, and, picking up those threads, and then leave us Red Hulk as a surprise.
That'd be awesome.
But
I would have enjoyed that.
The big thing with Marvel Studios today is that they refuse to keep anything under wraps, because they would rather break the news themselves than be scooped by someone. And in the news industry, that is like a horrible way to operate. It's always, you'd rather be correct than first, right? So I feel like the MCU is kind of shooting itself in the foot on this. That I've said it, before on multiple podcasts that's the reason why to this day I've still never seen Deadpool and Wolverine because it was all spoiled for me before the film came out. Marvel Studios was posting about it the day the film came out, showing pictures, tagging actors who were in it. And this was like that Friday morning it came out. So,
But did they do that with No Way Home? Because that, I mean, even though we had the rumors of the Spider-Man in that movie, like I don't remember
there were rumors, but it had never been confirmed.
Right. And so seeing it on screen, I remember sitting in the theater and being like, "Oh, they did!" Like just my mind, just like, "Oh, they did it!" Like it's incredible.
Everyone in the theater too. Like,
it was amazing, right? Where
and I think,
like
there are another thing with this movie is it didn't have any of those awesome Marvel movie moments for a theater. Like my theater, silent, completely full, not a laugh, not a anything.
Mine was the same, movie.
Yeah.
And it was just odd.
Mine wasn't. I don't. I feel like it's hard to prescribe like a Marvel moment because everything people are going to compare it to is portals in Endgame.
Oh, hell yeah.
Or
it's tough.
Or just the hammer, like I knew it. Like,
or that.
Yeah.
For me, I think there were so many moments, especially between Cap and Falcon, where it was the banter, or during the fight choreography, or like during the fight with the Japanese pilots. Just the random things that Cap's suit is able to do now, like his wings slicing through the car in the final battle. Like those were huge.
I mean, dude, you know what? Really, I think to me the most surprising moment in the whole movie was when Ezekiel turned, like in the beginning. Like even though we saw the previews, like I just wasn't really prepared for what was going to happen in that moment, and everything was great, and they're at the White House, and everything's fine, and then you hear that music, and then he just picks up the gun, and everybody just starts shooting at Ross, and it was like, whoa, like what's happening here? And I mean, even my daughter was just like, I could just see her just staring at the screen, like what is happening? Like she had no clue what was going on. To me, that was a pretty big Marvel moment. It was just, or a shocking moment, I should say. Probably the most of the whole movie, really, because so much was spoiled and everything else. Like you almost wonder, like if they just gave us, if you remember the original teaser for this movie, and you had, I think, the moment where Cap throws his shield, and you just saw the foot of the Red Hulk and the shield just get thrown down on the ground, and that shot is in the film where you see him like he catches the shield and throws it down, and it smacks down into the ground. If they just had that, so we knew the Red Hulk was in it, but you didn't know necessarily who it was, though as Marvel fans we know who it was. But with the recasting of Ross, some people who were just like lax fans or whatever may not have even known Harrison Ford is the one that was kind of reprising that role, and they would have went in maybe not knowing that. So then when you see that, and then maybe push the leader or Samuel Stearns as the main villain, show him more, and maybe, or hell, I mean, even originally we all thought Giancarlo Esposito, as Sidewinder was going to be the villain. Like he was when they said he was cast. I mean, he was the one that we saw, I think, the most in the beginning.
Yeah,
and portray him, and then leave everything else kind of to the side. I don't know.
Agreed.
What do we think, just I guess, of Anthony Mackie now taking up the mantle as Cap? Personally, I thought he did an awesome job. I mean, he did a great job in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I think all throughout this, he's Cap right now, right? I mean, he's never going to be Steve Rogers. And he admittedly says that I'm not Steve Rogers, but Sam Wilson is not Steve Rogers. I think Anthony Mackie.
He's not supposed to be.
Right.
Yeah.
He plays this character the way he's supposed to be played. I think he lived up to the moment, though. For what the movie is, like he's great in the role, I think.
Yeah, and he has the heart of Captain America. It's like it's so much of him is different, but just the passion in that way you can see in the way that he fights and talks to people is Captain America to me.
Yeah, I mean that was
we saw that.
Okay,
go ahead.
Well, you saw that in the show, right? The series leading up to that was the transformation of him taking on the role, and I think that show was great. I enjoyed all of that as well, and how it was like coming into the role, and it's right where he left off at the beginning of the movie. He's doing the the things he's trained to do and helping out how as he can. And he's found a new little buddy, which I think it felt really good. Is this the first time we're seeing this new Falcon?
He was in the series.
Yeah,
like,
he was in the show.
He was in the show.
Baby
Was he?
Falcon.
At the very end, he says to Sam, he's like, "Hey, you forgot your suit," and Sam's just like, "Keep it." And so it's like, that's
okay.
where you knew he was going to be the Falcon. There was a lot of talk, I think, ahead of time, and even in my head, I kept saying like, "Oh, they got to have Banner. You know, Bruce Banner's got to be in this movie." And so towards the end, I was even thinking like, "Is he going to show up? Is he going to show up?" But then seeing how Sam defeats the Hulk, it's like, I'm so glad they did not put Banner in the movie. They couldn't.
Yeah.
Like, in another world, they could have had Banner come in, and Banner, how awesome would it have been? Two Hulks fighting on the screen, and that
Yes.
would have been great. But it's like, no, Sam defeated the Hulk, the Red Hulk, the way he should have. He put down his weapon and basically was able to talk to him and be Captain America in that moment. And for me, that's really when he became Captain America. Now it's like, that's what Cap would do. Like he knowing that he didn't have the strength to defeat him, because essentially he's just a regular guy with a super suit and wielding this shield. Outthought the Hulk and defeated him the way that he should. And I'm glad they did that decision. Like, that was the perfect decision, I think, for him. And really elevates him to being, I guess, the one to carry that mantle, and which is cool. And to be the first new Avenger, because we also have that. He now has decided he is going to join the new Avengers, right? Isn't that ultimately kind of what this movie seems to be setting up? Because it says at the end, he will return. And I think that was the whole point, was they wanted to create this new team within the lore.
This isn't a start of a new phase, right?
We're kind of in it right now, I think, still. I mean, there was the phase with the Kang phase, if you want to say, which has kind of been
That's where we still are.
thrown out the window, but we're in it now, leading towards other things, I think, than was originally planned. So, what do you got, Matt?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Do we know what the next phase will be after the multiverse?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I would assume it's X-Men related, would be my guess, because
Yeah.
hey, I mean, the big thing
Another
and the
thing.
kind of the plot point of this whole movie, when you kind of take a lot of it in, is the Celestial that is here on Earth from Eternals. We find out is made of adamantium, and so the whole world essentially is like, hey, Wakanda has their vibranium. This could be ours.
That was the Marvel moment.
Like, what?
That was the Marvel moment when Harrison Ford said adamantium. My whole theater went. They're doing it. Like it was 3:00 in an afternoon IMAX showing, and like you just heard the gasps.
Yeah.
I pride myself in having a very good locale of people who go to see these.
See, I had that spoiled. Disney Plus had like a 3 or 4 minute
same
secret, behind the scenes or whatever, and they showed that scene.
I
was
knew
like,
that
watch
going
it.
into the movie. Unfortunately,
I knew that.
I saw a post. I think I saw a post from Disney about like how this Brave New
Interesting.
World. There's the Celestial with adamantium. I'm like, all right, cool. I guess that's what we're doing now in that movie.
Yeah.
And I'd like not.
That's too bad, because you try so hard to not.
I know. I
PR people
specifically do not watch
all.
trailers. I don't watch trailers. I try to unfollow all of these things, and it's like still gonna get you.
Well, that's like some of my favorite people in media reporting they were talking about, and spoiling like Daredevil the day, like what's the word, not the moratorium, embargo, because they have an embargo that they can't release reporting about it until X time on X day. Yeah. And so like as soon as that's done, though, they have their 45-minute video up and all their
clicks.
TikToks
and reels, and it's like, I'm gonna unfollow you because I can't go through and mute all of these people, so I'm just gonna unfollow you because you're making this experience not fun anymore for me.
Yeah.
Because why do I want to go see this thing if you're gonna ruin it for me? I don't know.
Yeah. I think though, pulling the adamantium in, I think is great, because people who are comic book fans knows what that means. Who that is really ultimately going to, I think, find, I guess is the right way to say it. Of course, I would assume if you're listening to this, but of course Wolverine has a skeleton made of adamantium, and so we
He
know
has a skeleton coated in adamantium.
right. It's coated because he does still have the bones and everything. But
Correct.
I wondered, kind of coming out of it, and this is going beyond the movie, but like, what are they going to do with this? Like, so are we going to get a full Wolverine origin movie? Are we going to get like literally a Weapon X? Like, because otherwise, like, what? How do you? I mean, you assume Logan at this point is alive, right? If we just kind of knowing the story of Logan in the timeline of where this adamantium is, but then he's going to have to somehow go into the Canadian whatever it is with Weapon X, and get his skeleton coated in that. And
yeah, I want that, but the MCU has a problem of introducing new things like that, because it's like, well, where were they when Thanos was here?
Right.
You know, like, how come none of the X-Men helped if they were just like chilling the whole time?
right.
And so I would that is exactly what I want. Like, I do want another a new Logan, you know, in this, you know, this like MCU version of Logan. But I think what they have to do is they have to kind of build off of the Marvels and the multiverse, and I think that they've got to pull, you know,
Pull it
Hugh
in that
Jackman
way.
and Kelsey Grammer through the wormhole or whatever, and then here we go. Here's the
Here it
X-Men.
is.
With that Celestial, I didn't watch Eternals. Was it something that crashed into Earth?
That
The
came up
opposite,
through the
actually.
Earth, right? Yeah.
It was something that has been waiting in the Earth's core since the Earth was.
Yeah, it was.
It's
Okay.
The Earth is like an egg for
Yeah.
the Celestial.
Did it come alive, or was just always?
It was about to.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And
Right,
it was literally crawling out of the earth, and has just been chilling like that since the end of Eternals, and they haven't addressed it in
Yeah,
years.
since like 2020,
And
2021.
isn't the Guardians isn't nowhere like a dead
It's a
celestial?
dead Celestial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the head of a dead celestial.
So quickly, Eternals worth watching.
I think so.
100%.
I mean, we're going to, because we're doing our
Yeah,
MCU
we will.
rewatch here.
We'll save that for the recap.
Besides being a good, like, I feel like it's a good superhero movie with great fights. It's also cinematically beautiful. Chloe Zhao, like, came right off of like her Academy Award win, like, did this, like, so good.
Awesome characters, but it'll be a minute, but we'll get there.
We'll get there at some point. But getting back to Brave New World, I think, Matt, you mentioned earlier about just like the fight scenes and the choreography and all that. Like,
Oh my gosh.
this film, and it kicks it off like with a perfect. It reminded me of like Winter Soldier, how you kind of have that opening
That's what it's
scene.
supposed to do.
of
It's,
Cap, like,
it's
you know-
almost shot for shot the same thing.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good,
Like
man.
a heist, right?
Yep.
Or like stopping a heist.
Yeah, it was just great seeing them
The-
in action, seeing all the things that he can do now. I love the moment when he crashes down, boom, lands on the ground, and he sits there and he's just like, "Wait a minute," and then poof, like the big like burst.
Yes, the shockwave.
Yeah,
Shockwave,
Shockwave.
so cool, man.
Very
Yeah.
cool. That was sweet.
Cap has such a unique, like, Captain America, the character, not just either, like Steve Rogers or Sam Wilson. Cap has such a unique fighting style compared to the rest of the combatants in the MCU. And it's something so cool to see translated, to see Sam Wilson's take on it. Also, I believe, because I was researching this earlier, this is the first time Anthony Mackie is performing with a new stunt actor. His previous stuntman retired after Falcon and the Winter Soldier, had been his stunt person since his debut in
really?
Winter Soldier, Captain America and the Winter Soldier. And so a couple new stunt performers this time. But Cap felt so much, he didn't feel lighter. He definitely felt heavier. Like, it was
For sure.
the Captain America style of fighting, but it was a little bit slower, which is perfect because he's a regular human. It felt like there was a lot more object improvisation, whereas with Steve Rogers, there's more like a hand-to-hand improvisation, if that makes sense. Because Sam might not be the most skilled. He is skilled, don't get me wrong, but since he's not at the level of Steve Rogers, he's going to use everything around him to help give him an upper hand. And just seeing that, like, just the flips and the, like, gosh, everything. It was so good.
So
and readily apparent from the
So my
top.
buddy Chris, his son is a huge Hulk fan, and we went and saw the movie first, and he was thinking like, oh, I'm going to take Max to go see Captain America. Now his son Max is like 4 or 5. What do you guys think? So walking out of it, like I texted Chris right away, and I was like, hey man, like just want to let you know, like movie's great. Max will love the Hulk scenes. Might be a little bit scary because he's a little bit crazy. But then I also said like this may be one of the most violent MCU movies. What do you think kind of that? Because I mean, there was straight up like shots to the head with guns. There was, I mean, Sidewinder himself, Giancarlo's character is like all about the guns, right? The shooting, that whole opening scene is there. And then there's a scene, of course, in the streets when they're kind of Sam and him are battling between the cars and everything. There's a moment where they go into the prison, right? And the prison guards hear the music as well, go and literally just murder everybody in their cells except for Ezekiel. So there are pretty violent scenes. I mean, it's not very graphic, but you kind of know what's going on. And I think for a little guy, this would be a little bit scary. I mean, do you guys agree with that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
I
100%.
think it's odd. I don't know. I'm the only one on this panel without a kid. And like, I would never take a 5-year-old to see this. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm
Well, he didn't
different.
because of my recommendation. I'm like, I would hold off on this one.
It's
man.
crazy the people who you see in a theater.
Oh yeah.
This is not like a knock on anyone's parenting style. This is just my own personal belief. It was just like, why expose them that young? You know?
Yeah. Dude, the worst was. Did you ever see the movie Devil's Rejects? The Rob Zombie like crazy family that just like murders everybody.
I didn't watch it, but I know what you're talking
We
about.
went and saw that in theaters, and there was a family there with like probably like a 6 and a 7-year-old, and this was on like a Friday night at like 9 o'clock. I'm like, what are you doing in this theater with your kids? Like, come on now.
We're having a hard time right now with like the ice monsters and Frozen, so I cannot imagine what it would be like if I showed my daughter like Red Hulk smash.
Yeah, I mean, I took my son the original Avengers movie. We went and saw that in theaters, and he was probably 7 or 8, maybe. And I remember him being scared. You know how Hulk, like on the helicarrier, he gets, he hulks out. And like, I remember him being scared in the theater, like watching that. And I was like, oh, I wasn't even thinking about that. And so I always think back to that moment. And that's what, when Chris was like, oh, I'm thinking about taking Max, I'm like, I don't know, man. Like,
wait till it's at home and just show him the cool scenes with Hulk in it.
That's probably the best way to do it.
It has the being part of the Captain America franchise. It has this DNA of inherently wanting to be a thriller, a political thriller, a psychological thriller, which I feel like it was able to achieve and balance along with the fantastical of Red Hulk, you know? I will say until the cows come home, Captain America, the Winter Soldier, my favorite Marvel movie. I argue like the best Marvel movie. But you could see the DNA in Brave New World from that. And I think because of the violence, keeping it visceral, keeping it real, they want to keep you grounded. This isn't, WandaVision where we're pretending we're on TV or we're, dealing with magic and all, zombies and all this different stuff.
How does
but it's
work
also
at the office?
Yeah, but it's also able to take place in the same world where you have the Celestial, which appeared in a movie which is one of the most superhero-esque movies where all the characters have incredible superpowers. You know what I mean? So it's like able to really kind of blend the two together and kind of bridge that gap between them. That's a good point. I didn't even really think of that, because that's the thing. Yeah, the Captain America movies really are very visceral. They're the fighting is more real in those movies. There's guns. It's not people shooting fireballs and stuff like that. It's
If you ever need motivation to do a task, put on the Captain America, the Winter Soldier soundtrack, and when the Winter Soldier theme comes on, if you don't feel like someone is walking up behind you about to like hunt you down, like you're not
do it.
Like it is, it's just like automatic fight or flight. And I could see strokes of that. I love political thrillers. I loved the whole lead up to the White House part in here. I love that this movie I love it when movies take big swings and like go head on addressing real world things or destroying real world things, like
The White
destroying the White House.
House.
Like there are two schools of thought that you could be like, we're gonna do this and just see what happens, or it's just like, this, I'm directing this movie, that's a problem for the next guy, that uh but like that epic scene fighting on the roof of the White House where the Red Hulk is swinging the American flag, like swatting things away, and then throws it like a javelin. Like, come on, that is Marvel.
And
Like,
leaps, dude. The leaps he was. I mean, it was
Oh, they're
perfect, dude.
huge.
Like,
He jumps from the White House to the Washington Monument.
yeah,
Yeah,
I loved it, man. And then I mean, we see it all in the commercials. I mean, even the Tide commercial had the scenery, but the final big moment, if you want to say, where all the trees with all the, I mean, what are those trees? The
Cherry
pink-
blossoms.
cherry blossom.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, it just looked so good. It was like an old samurai film, like with or if you play like
Right.
Ghost of Tsushima on PlayStation, like it just kind of had that vibe of like this beautiful garden, and meanwhile there's just destruction all over the place. Huge red Hulk, and I don't want to say a small person trying to fight that, but Captain America, he's just a regular guy, right, with a super suit, and it's just against all the odds is going to try to take on this monster, and it was good, man. They did a great job. That whole just end bit, I think, it was like the whole movie was there. It was great, but it all literally, like, I was there to see that final 10 or 15
Yeah.
minutes. Like,
everyone
that's what we
was.
were all there for.
That's-
Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
oh, it was so
I
good.
will bring up my one qualm with that final scene, is that it was on a blue screen.
That's what I
Yeah.
was about to say.
The
I'm
trees
glad
were
you
real.
said it, Matt. I didn't
The
want to be
trees
another
were
Debbie
real.
Downer.
I don't know if all the swirling cherry blossom leaves were real. Like, it was on a practical street, stuff like that. But it was so clearly either
Yeah,
shot
agree.
in the volume or
I bet it was the volume, dude. That's
I
like
actually thought it looked pretty bad. That it was. It kind of
That's-
took me
it's
out of the movie
all I could
completely.
think about.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's just he's just standing in front of a green screen right now. There's Hulk's
Do-
not
do
there.
you
Like
think,
that's
though,
all
let
I
me
could
ask you
think
this.
about.
Do you think you would have felt that same way if you had not seen it 100 times before? Because that was
Honestly,
the thing. Like,
I would hope not. Probably not.
I bet you wouldn't, because you've seen it so many times on, like I said, dude, that Tide commercial was on all the time. Like, whatever my wife and I watch, it was like constantly on TV. Not even the commercial for the movie. It was for Tide Pods or whatever it is. And it's like,
Yeah.
it was that same scene, the people standing at the bus stop with that. And so you can nitpick that over and over. And then when you see it in the movies, it was like, oh, that's just that same screen.
It is, and I think that a lot of times whenever I see stuff like that, my first thought is like, man, I hope that looks better in a theater, because that does not look good right now. And it didn't, because
Yeah.
I had seen it before.
Let's think about our vocabulary. So good being like, I don't know if good I would use to describe it, because it did look good in terms of production. It was just
Sure.
very apparent that it was CGI.
Yeah, it was just a lot. It was a lot of CGI. It's like
Yes.
it was
Yeah.
as good as that. I think in terms of like what that is, as good as, I don't know how it could look any better. Like the issue is that it just was all CGI, and it was clear that it was.
And how good the Red Hulk was versus how readily apparent that was. I feel like that was the battle that kept going on in my brain. It was
Yeah.
like, at no point was I ever dissatisfied with the Hulk model rendering, CGI, whatever. It was fantastic from start to finish.
Yeah, I agree.
The multiple times where it's just like he's bubbling underneath the skin, and you see like
Mhm.
his calves start to bulge against like his pants and whatever, and you're just waiting for this transformation to happen. And then I don't know, that I would say the only resolution I could suggest would have been to shoot it practically outside, but maybe it was either one, spoilers and leaks that you have to worry about with such a big thing. But if you're going to leak it anyway, who cares?
Oh yeah, I would
Right,
much
yeah,
rather
yeah.
have it be like
But
that.
I wonder also how more difficult it would have been to shoot completely practical outside versus on a soundstage. So
It would. I mean, I think about like Endgame in the portal moment, right? That's clearly all green screen too, but that's not what I was thinking about. You know,
Right.
like I think it is. I actually don't know. I assume that that was all mostly green screen in that moment, like in that big like disaster
those
field
were
or
real
whatever.
portals.
Yeah. Well, sure. Yeah, of course. But
Unreal Legend 5.
so just another example, but
Yeah, I honestly think, dude, I think had that scene not been spoiled, I think you would have been like in the portals, something that you never saw that before. Now you can go back and watch it and it's clearly CG, but when you're in the theater and seeing that, like that's the last thing you're
yeah,
thinking
that's what I
of.
mean.
And I
Yeah.
think so if we, number one, weren't spoiled on the Red Hulk, but even then, like just having that moment and that the final battle at that street surrounded by cherry blossoms, you wouldn't have even been thinking about it,
Probably
but
not.
now it's like that's all we're looking at because we see
A moment
it
that I
over.
did love. Sorry, go ahead, Neil. Before I turn this.
Oh, just where the portals were happening. It was like a wasteland, right? It wasn't like supposed to be in a normal city. Where exactly
No,
did that happen?
Avengers
direct.
Campus on
Yeah,
the side of like
Oh,
a
it
stage.
was. It was just like
Yeah.
destroyed. Like I just remember it being very dark and everything. It's not like a sunny day. in the
Yeah,
middle
it's
of the city,
where
right?
you think about in like Ant-Man when he goes to like infiltrate the Avengers campus, and it's just like middle, of the woods, just a little compound out there.
And remember, there's
Yeah.
like a lake there too, and was it
Yeah.
Doctor Strange or somebody's holding back the water?
CG always looks better when it's dark.
It does,
Right.
yeah.
Which is why
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
one episode of Game of
Sunlight,
Thrones
right?
is so dark. The finale or whatever.
Every
Um,
TV show now is dark.
That's why
Yeah.
all of the
I hate it.
Mandalorian is dark,
Right.
except for the ice spiders.
But one of my favorite action scene of this whole movie, though, and probably one of my favorite parts of the movie, is the celestial fight, over the water, and
Mhm.
Cap is like flying to try to like save the pilots, and then he has Red Wing like come in and hold the shield for him,
So
and he's
good.
like flying with Red Wing, and it's that moment was so
Yeah.
cool. I love it
Red
so
Wing,
much.
I think a little underrated.
Little
in this
side
movie.
character.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
awesome in this movie. Where's his credits?
Well, funny story, in comics, he's an actual bird, like an
Oh
actual
yeah. That's right.
falcon,
He is a bird.
Oh yeah.
who is Falcon's
Yeah, Falcon's
familiar, I guess.
There you
So
go.
My
I guess it'd be
bird.
a little bit more.
bird.
It'd be a little bit more interesting to digest if Sam Wilson was just rocking around like a pet falcon.
One character that I didn't really, I don't know. At first I didn't really like her, I guess, and then kind of as the movie went on, and I mean she did
Liv
become
Tyler, I know, yeah.
Well, it's always good to see Liv Tyler, definitely. But she's an elf forever for me from Lord of the Rings. What's her name? Ruth Bat-Seraph, the
widow.
The security.
yes, the other widow.
Yeah.
She's pretty badass, actually, man. Like at first, it's kind of annoying.
was.
Like, who is this person? Like, she's annoying. She's his head of security, and then like as the movie goes on, you start to really, I started to really kind of dig her. Are we going to see her again? Do you think? I mean, I hope so. I hope we get to see her kind of in some of the future iterations here. Do you have any thoughts on that, Matt, or do you know her history in the books?
So it's funny. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the TikTok trend. There's a trending sound of Ariana, what are you doing here? And referencing Ariana Grande anyway. But it's just like, what is this character doing here? Because in the comics, her code name is Sabra or Sabra. I'm not sure of the pronunciation. It just makes me think of hummus. But basically,
Yeah. I know what you're talking about now.
basically, she's Israel's equivalent of Captain America.
Oh, wow.
She is a mutant.
Oh.
She is an assassin. She has like the super soldier serum, and so it's like she's OP. And that's not the version we got. I don't
No.
believe.
Yet.
Although when she like almost did like the Henry Cavill like pop him out before
He
doing
reloads his fists.
before doing the widow spin, I was like all day. I consider it victory whenever we get a widow like leg twirl around somebody. But controversial a little bit outside the States because of how some people viewed the character as being watered down for the film. um, in Israel, which there's a lot going on right now. So this didn't make as big headlines uh, as it might have, but yeah, really, I don't feel like it was needed in this film. Uh, I feel like we could have had someone who was a presidential advisor, maybe like the actress who played the Secret Service detail person who Sam knew, if she was
Right.
instead the presidential advisor. Then you're getting rid of an extraneous character who didn't do anything but shoot at the president immediately when he turned into the Red Hulk. Like, guys, we know what Hulks do.
Yeah, it wasn't just her, man. Like the whole Secret Service just unloaded their
They
guns
pulled
on the
out
president of the United
miniguns
States.
on, like, God, my guys, like, what have we learned? There's a reason Thanos got rid of half of you. Like, come on.
But that's what I think, Matt. I think she was added in this movie. I mean, she may have been a character that maybe was unneeded, but that's why I can't help but feel there's plans for her moving forward. Like, I mean, we're going into Thunderbolts next, right?
Yeah.
And we know we have what's her name, Ileana. What's her name? Widow's sister. And so it almost makes me wonder now with her, like, is this character going to show up possibly in Thunderbolts, or maybe like at the end and like kind of have this reunion of the widows in there, and then maybe they, I mean, I don't know where that story goes, but I don't
need all that.
You what?
I don't need all that.
I know you don't, but it's like, I mean, why else would they put this character in there? Like, it just
because they're trying. They're going for the Falcon, or oh my God, what's the Captain America movie? Winter Soldier.
yeah.
They had to have a widow. They had to have a widow in this.
They had to have the widow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Maybe.
I could also see them wanting to have more international like reach, because since this is very political, like we had deals with China, we had deals with
America, Captain America.
We had like
a brave new world, though.
As someone who works in international news and writes breaking news for a living, like I was like, wow, I'd be having to cover this real time, and I don't envy trying to get the facts straight, or the version that would have been released by the US government and the Japanese government to see, who said what happened versus who said, so I don't envy that angle of it, but it's a globe-trotting, just big deal, kind of like how Falcon and the Winter Soldier was, how that took us around the world. And I like that that's one of the, I feel like that's a hallmark of the Captain America story.
Yeah, it is. Especially if you read, any of the books here over the last probably decade. That's what the books are. I mean, they're just all over the place. So okay, so I mean, any other thoughts here, guys? I mean, we're rolling at almost an hour
what
here.
What do we think about, not necessarily CGI, but just makeup or whatever, the look of the leader in this movie?
I'm glad that his noggin wasn't huge.
Yeah, he would look like a cone head, right? Remember the cone heads?
No, it was like more like a light bulb almost, like in the comics.
Like, it like hangs over the back of his head.
Right? Try find a hoodie to fit that, my guy. Like, come on.
He kind of looked like the Toxic Crusader. Remember the Toxic Crusader?
I did think that at one point.
Or Sloth from the Goonies. Like,
I dug it. I think they could have leaned a little bit more into the body horror of it. Made him a little bit more ruthless, made him the main villain, given him a little bit more. But I thought it was good.
Yeah. I thought the whole plot line with the mind control was pretty cool, and it was something you weren't kind of expecting, right? I thought we're like, oh, maybe Isaiah was like after this the whole time, maybe meant to do that, but it turned out people were being mind controlled, and then they brought that back a few other times with the fighter pilots, and it's like that's just something that's not like a force that you see, and it's just adds kind of the scary factor. Like anyone, it could be anybody right beside you could just turn their back on you, and you're not safe.
Now in the comics, is the leader? and correct me if I'm wrong, isn't he more of like a telepath too? Like in terms of the mind control, or am I just confusing that?
But comics.
So I think in the way they did it here, with it being more the cell phone, kind of mixed almost with kind of how the Winter Soldier kind of was, mind tricked and having the like it just fit. So they really were able to take that character who has more of a, again, telepathy, and turn it into more of a real world practical
Advanced
explanation for it. I think was kind of cool. And Matt, you
Science.
mentioned the body horror. I mean, that's the thing about the Hulk, and especially now, again, like I said, just being a Hulk fan right now and reading Immortal Hulk and like loving these books. That's part of why I've been loving these books. It's not necessarily the body horror, but the horror side of it. And like that's what they are doubling down on. And so anything involving the Hulk, you're gonna get that. You think of Abomination, you just think of the idea of Bruce Banner turning into the Hulk. I mean, that's And if you watch that, I mean, they don't show it a lot in the movies. It's always like a shadow, and then they kind of cut back to it. It's disgusting. Like, I mean, it's just, I mean, in the way the books do it now, it's graphic. So I think having him look the way he did, I like the way the leader looked. I think it was definitely good. Kind of fits with the whole idea of the Hulk.
I got a few real quick things. One, I loved the Cap and Falcon base. Just loved the design of it. That they were working out at.
Yeah.
It's like, who's funding this? Is like, are you getting Under Armour money? Like, what's up? Carl Lumley, like the dude is jacked and huge for his age.
For the guy that plays Isaiah Bradley.
Yeah, Isaiah.
Yes.
I called him Ezekiel earlier, but yeah, it's Isaiah.
Martian Manhunter from Justice League the Animated Series. Am I correct on that?
I have no idea.
Yes.
Wow. Am I doubting myself? Yes. But just like such a good storied history in action and thrillers in TV and in film. I'm always happy to see him. 3, I thought Liv Tyler was AI up until the end. I was like, oh, they didn't actually get her.
Me too. This. Yeah.
All
like
she
she's
said
not
was
actually
like,
going to be in here.
Yeah. Hi, Dad.
That's her though. That's how she talks. You
know? And what else?
I mean, they got Natalie Portman to come back, right? Liv Tyler had to come back, right? No.
No. Liv Tyler doesn't have to do anything. Like, I don't know. Natalie Portman wanted, like a good resolution to the character.
I think hopefully there's more of her. I need Valkyrie.
I loved the suspense of Harrison Ford trying to keep himself calm, like when he's spiraling and just kind of like going through the ship, like these rack shots of just like him breathing hard, and that's when you see like the body start to kind of change and things like that. Such good directing choices made for this film. And Brandon Davis, who hosts Phase Hero, the podcast, spoke with the film's director about kind of like the back and forth reaction. Didn't get the best ratings on Rotten Tomatoes from critics, but Rotten Tomatoes is not the end all be all. Some people jump on a hate train just to jump on a hate train. And I feel like cinematically, it was beautifully shot, great choices taken. And he says, at the end of the day, we filmed what we thought was, a good movie. Proud of the choices we made, and we give it to the world, and that's part of the art. And that's, I think, at the end of the day, like remembering is like people, they put their heart and souls into this, no matter what anybody comes and says about it. Like, just try and respect them at the end of the day.
And I mean, you can nitpick it, all day long, but like it's an entertaining movie. I mean, come on, man. Like, you got great action, you got the Hulk in there, you got Falcon flying around. Like, it's good. Or Captain America, I should say. But what were you gonna say, Neil?
What do you guys think about Bucky showing up in this movie? I feel like that. Bucky. Yeah, I think the theater made some noise about him showing up, because that wasn't advertised, was it?
That was
No, that was a
that was
surprise, actually.
weird.
Yeah.
I mean, I think coming from the TV series, it made sense. But my question now is, how do we have Regal,
Thunderbolts.
soon to be Senator, but even though not necessarily, but like that idea comes up in this movie of like, oh, Senator, Bucky Barnes, and then suddenly you see him in Thunderbolts, and he's like not that Bucky. So
Yeah,
like, what happens
so-
between this movie and Thunderbolts that he just
I miss the
derails?
days. So like the end credits scene or whatever, the stinger, with the leader, I didn't feel like needed to be there at all. Like
Not at all.
Agreed.
like we don't know, like there was no point to that. Like let's just put something in there. And I walked away like, okay, I don't care about that. I miss the days of when the stingers were like, all right, the next movie is this.
Yes.
So like
Yes.
so like Thor's hammer, in New Mexico, like, oh, we're getting Thor, here we go,
Yeah.
and that was before we knew like the next 30 Marvel movies that were going to be coming out. But so like I wish that we would get something leading into Thunderbolts at the end of this, at least, just a little tease of like, this is where we're starting in like 2 months, get ready.
Or even Sam Wilson going and trying to recruit someone new. Right?
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Give me Yelena, since it's going to be Thunderbolts, give me
yeah.
Yelena making a pot of macaroni and cheese. And
Okay.
did you see Hawkeye?
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm here for, I'm
Okay, so
here for where you're going. Yeah.
and she like gets a text, or like Alexi, barges through the door. And he's like, grab your bag, we have to go, or something like that. She's like, no, but I just made macaroni, that's it. And it's just like some dumb cutaway, and it's
That
like,
would have been
That's it.
perfect.
Exactly.
Elena and the
I would
Red
rather
Party
have that.
will return.
Yeah.
It's just like, send me off with a smile, guys.
Well, that's what was so confusing about this one. It was like the leaders talking about, what are you going to do when there's something from off-world? And you're like, dude, where were you for the last 22 films that led up to one of the greatest moments in cinematic history? We did that. Like, what are you
You're
talking about?
Convergences. So the basis of every Marvel game for the past 10 years, how the multiverses are going to crash into each other, and kind of like along the lines of DC, how not all the worlds can survive, and you have to find a way to stop it, which I don't feel like, if you keep trying to go bigger and bigger and bigger, you're going to hit a point where you can't. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, and that's what always has made these Captain America movies great, is because they're not about the big thing. It was always more that political intrigue of like, here's what's happening in the moment right now, and it's
Which I think a great next Avengers movie, this is not what they're doing, but did anyone read the new Avengers run? Which, let me see the year.
I think
It
so.
was-
Was that Sam Wilson?
No. It started with Avengers Breakout. It was Brian Michael Bendis. So basically, the Raft, it's this massive breakout of the Raft. And the
okay.
Avengers aren't a team at the moment. And 74 supervillains escape from the Raft. And the new Avengers are Cap, Iron Man, Spider-Man, Jessica Drew, Spider-Woman, Luke Cage, and who else? Somebody else.
Sounds like fun.
It might be Hawkeye, but just they're brought together because like every hero in the city is basically called to come and like get to the Raft to stop this
Villain
from happening.
roundup.
And they decide to become the next iteration of the Avengers. I think that would be a fantastic jumping off point, but it's not. It's too small of a moment, I feel, especially now knowing that we're headed towards Doctor Doom.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, do we want to put this on the tier of Marvel films? Are we going like S tier, A, B, C, D? Is that how we want to?
That's how I personally do it.
Okay.
But
where does it fall on everybody's tier list? If you had to.
So what is it again? S
A B C D.
Okay.
S A B C D.
Or F if you think it's an F. But for me, it's C. I think it's a solid C movie. I think in my list, I have it a little bit above Quantumania. But there's
Wow.
yeah. I mean, I didn't love it. Like I had a lot of fun, but I had more things I disliked a lot more than I liked. But there's still a lot to like.
I give it probably a B plus for me. Like it's a B, not quite the A, so it's kind of just a solid B for me. Like there was moments where I was kind of, like I said, I think I expected more out of it. Walked out a little bit disappointed, but I think the action scenes and especially just some of the best Hulk scenes, I think, like just crashing through the White House, all that was just awesome to see that. And, Sam Wilson, just all those action scenes of him flying around and cutting through jets, and the action is awesome. So that's why I think I definitely put it up there for B. And again, seeing it in the theater, I think if I just saw this on TV, it might even actually dip down to a C, and it may when I do a rewatch at home on Disney Plus. But for me, I'm going to put it as a B.
What about you, Neil?
I have to say, I think a B as well. I enjoyed it, but honestly, if Marvel Rivals hadn't come out and we weren't doing this podcast, I likely would have skipped the movie and waited for it to come home. But just been getting right into Marvel and excited that this came out just because there's been so many of them, and we'll see as we go through this recap. I have missed quite a bit, and nothing really jumped out at me that I would really want to see. The Red Hulk was good. I really did enjoy the Falcon Winter Soldier show. I did watch that, so that was kind of something that drew me to this. But yeah, I'll go with a B for my first movie on this tier list, and we'll see where it fares with the other shows we're about to watch. So
I'm giving an A.
You do.
Not S tier by any means or stretch of the imagination. I don't put it close to Quantumania anywhere at all.
I liked Quantumania, man.
Someone had to. By the law of averages, one of us is bound to have loved Quantumania. It was Mark, MODOK and all.
Okay, maybe not.
Nope. We'll see when we come back around to Quantumania.
You take it scars and all, Mark. You don't get to pick and choose. Great action movie, fantastic popcorn movie, has the heart of an MCU film. Yeah, I feel like that's it.
Right. All right, well, there you go, guys. That's our recap, MCU recap of Captain America: Brave New World. Again, this was a bonus episode here, so depending on when you're listening to this, you may be listening to this in the regular podcast feed. And we're going to have some details for you guys soon as to how you can become a Patreon member and all the different incentives and all that you're going to get from our Patreon. But that is for another time. So, again, thank you here for tuning in. And we will be talking to you guys soon. Take care.